What's up, everybody? It's Friday, January 17th. Let's talk PlayStation. Kind of another slow news week for PlayStation, not a whole lot going on. So as you can see by the title of this video, we'll be doing something new and different. But before we get into that, of course, there are some things we can talk about, like The Last of Us DLC. There's a release date for that now, February 14th. I think we almost forgot about this, kinda. I know it certainly went right over my head, and now I'm certainly looking forward to spending Valentine's Day with Ellie. Ellie's got my heart, but at the same time, she kind of can't have my heart because, you know, she's kind of underage, and U.S. law would have a super huge problem with that. So, she can't have my heart, but I'll be playing The Last of Us February 14th. February 14th for that DLC. Here's something PlayStation users probably have been asking for a very long time. I know a lot of people actually have been asking for this. HBO Go is finally coming to PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. An HBO Go app, so you can watch HBO shows on those systems. You can watch Game of Thrones, Curb Your Enthusiasm, all that great HBO content that you guys love so much. But you still need a HBO subscription with your cable provider, so kind of sucks there, but I think that's kind of assumed. And no, there is no Vita version. They haven't spoken about that yet. I would assume that it's not in development and it's not in priority, but no Vita version for the app. So before our predictions, let's talk about another crazy Sony patent, because, you know, Sony does this. All these companies do this. Another crazy Sony patent was filed back in September last year, just recently surfaced. Was published yesterday. So, what it is, basically, if you can kind of see from the picture, it's kind of a modular controller. It's like the controller looks like it's pieced up, so you can like sort of put it together and sort of form different items that would translate into the game. So you build, like, you know, stack them together. You got a knife or a bat, stack them into a square or into an angle, and you've got a boomerang. I don't know, man. Connected a certain way, and you got like a gun, a shotgun, like stuff like that. I mean, this is another one of these patents that we're not ever going to see, because that's usually what happens. We've talked about this before. When Sony files patents all the time, and when they're this ridiculous, I don't think we'll ever see them come to fruition. But sometimes they just patent this technology just to have the rights to it, just to possibly seek further development 10 years from now. Who knows? So another crazy one that Sony did. I don't know, man. They patent stuff just for the sake of it. Now on to the main theme of this video and the main talking point, which is 2014 PlayStation predictions. Now right up front, I'll tell you, one of my Twitter followers hit me up and said, like, hey, maybe you should do a video like this. I'll put his name at the bottom because I don't know it off the top of my head. But thanks to that guy, by the way. Really good idea, right? It was kind of a slow news week. I'm like, what, you know, story am I gonna headline with? Like, there's not really a whole lot going on for PlayStation. So I thought this was a really awesome idea right on the fly. And the funny thing is, like, you know, if you know, we're all PlayStation fans, I'm sure some of you listen to like Podcast Beyond, IGN with Greg Miller, Colin Moriarty. They do this actually every year, and I love listening to it. I love hearing what they have to say. So it's like, why don't I do that? Like, I don't know, it really occurred to me. And the thing is, like, I'll be totally honest. I am somewhat very confident in some of my predictions. I know there are some. I have the video proof of this channel. It's like, what, close to 2 years old now. And there's older videos where I say something's going to happen and it actually does end up happening. And before I even did YouTube, I was pretty good at nailing predictions. So I guess I'll go publicly douchebag on it and now actually like claim things and then see if it happens. So at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, we'll jump back to this video and we'll see how many I got right, just like how they do it on Podcast Beyond. So boy, oh boy, this will be fun. Had to write these down because, you know, don't know that off the top of my head. Why do you think I make cuts on this show? Because I make mistakes. Big whoop. So we're doing 10 predictions. I tried to make these not something super obvious, but I guess I played safe on some of these. But some of these are a little bit bold. My first prediction is Uncharted for the PS4 will not get released in 2014. We'll see more of it. We'll get some news on it. We'll see gameplay of it. We'll see a lot of stuff about it, but it's not going to be ready for 2014 release. Again, I think that was a pretty safe bet. Number 2, this is a little more bold. Sucker Punch will reveal a PlayStation Vita title. Don't know what it would be, if it would be Infamous or if it would be a new IP, but I'm going to say just they'll release a new title. Now, the reasoning why I say this is because now a long time ago on Let's Talk PlayStation, we talked about a PS Vita title from Sucker Punch, where Nate Fox was in in an interview, someone said, "Hey, what are you doing with PS Vita?" And the way Nate Fox responded to this question, he seemed very not ready to answer it. He wasn't right on point with like, "No, we're not doing anything," because that would hint to them being like, "Okay, we're not doing anything," right? But his body language, the way he was acting, the way he kept saying it, like he stopped, and then he's like, "We're not talking about it right now. We're not talking about it right now." That was his wording. So I think we're going to see that this year, whatever that may be. Number 3, a major PlayStation 4 firmware update comes out for the second quarter of this year. So by major, I mean not just stability. I mean I'm talking about features that Sony's been talking about delivering to us. Like we'll get music playback on the system. We'll get the DNLS support. We'll get maybe folder support, or maybe a better sort of organization for the horizontal, thing of games. Just like major features all around. I don't really know which ones. Those would definitely be the major ones there, like the headset support for a lot of Sony's official headsets and other headsets. Like, just, it's one of those scenarios where they offer a lot in the update and it's not just something minuscule. Number 4, when PlayStation Now comes out, I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. Now, you guys know me. You guys know I don't play that fanboy bullshit. I'm not going to be all super happy about this. I'm going to call out when Sony is probably going to make a mistake. I'm going to say that PlayStation Now is probably going to have a pretty bad launch. Maybe a disaster is literally a little exaggerating, but I think it'll come out. People are all going to flood this thing. It's not going to work. There's going to be connection issues. You're going to get dropped from the game. Resolution's going to keep dropping. It's going to stutter for people. Some people won't be able to possibly log in or connect to the service. Maybe there'll be some issues from non-PlayStation hardware like Sony's TVs. I'm saying bad stuff all around. Or they might have the pricing wrong. They might have it'd be way too costly or something. I'm just going to say, and to some degree, they're really going to mess up in one or many places with PlayStation Now. Which is not to say that it's going to be a complete failure, because the one thing that Sony does is they'll release something, it'll suck, but it'll get better, right? I think that's one thing Sony can do, is they can put something out there, let the community hammer them for it, know what they did wrong, and then make it better over time, which I think is what PlayStation Now is going to be. So maybe in 2-3 years, PlayStation Now will be the thing that we're hoping it will be. Number 5, we're going to get new Vita games that we've all been asking for. Now, the reason why this sounds a little vague, let me just go right into this. If you remember, Sony formed a third-party relations team to basically take requests of what games they want to see come to PlayStation platforms, specifically stuff for PlayStation Vita. That's why Borderlands 2 came to fruition, because the third-party relations team worked it out. They found a developer to work on the game, and all of it sort of just came together, and now this new team is here to take ideas of what games people want on PlayStation. And I think we'll see titles come out of this program. Whether necessarily we find out if they're from that program or not, I just think we're going to see one or two titles, because that's not how gaming works. You can't get 30 titles in 1 year up and ready to go from this program. But I think we'll see 1 or 2 major titles that we didn't see coming from the PlayStation Vita, and I think it might be because of this third-party relations team. It would be kind of hard to maybe grade this one at the end of the year, but that's another prediction. Number 6, I'm going to boldly predict that PlayStation Vita TV, let me get them for video purposes, this guy right here will not come to the US or any Western territories. My God. Sometimes I just talk horribly. I don't think it'll come over. Reason being for it, I honestly... when I started doing my predictions, this is the one I spent the most time thinking about of whether it will or will not come. And then I was like, maybe I should just take this prediction off because I really have no clue. And I was kind of leaning towards it not coming. So I'm just going to put it out there. I don't think the Vita TV will come to the West. And it's really early to judge, but if you do look at the numbers, this thing is tanking in Japan. I mean tanking, 2,000 systems a week compared to regular Vita numbers, which are up in the tens of 20,000s. I don't think that's any major indication. I still think the device could come over. Let me put it this way. If it comes over to the West, I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm just going to predict that it's not going to come. Because part 2 of my number 6 prediction is that the Slim Vitas will come over. So the colored ones, I don't think they've released all those colors over here, but I certainly believe 1 or 2 of those colors, like black and white or something. The Slim PS Vita 2000 will come over to the West, but I don't think the Vita TV will. Again, I don't have a whole lot of like backup to this. I just think that's what's going to happen. Okay, number 7, we are going to talk straight numbers, just straight up sales predictions of where I think all 3 PlayStation platforms are going to be at the end of 2014. Just sort of kind of looking at it, kind of like, you know, seeing how it does weekly and stuff. I mean, a lot of this is kind of guessing, but I'm going to say the PlayStation 4 at the end of 2014 is going to be around 16 million units sold, give or take a million, I guess, to give me a little room for error. PlayStation 3 at 90 million systems, and the Vita at 9 million systems. So to put that into perspective right now, PlayStation 4 is currently at 4.2 million, PlayStation 3 is at 80.2 million, or 82 million, 80.2 I think, and then PlayStation Vita is at 7.2 million. So that's where I think it'll be. Number 8, which I think is my safest prediction on here, but I honestly started to run out of like ideas. Sony still won't give you what they want. So they won't give you PSN name changes. They're not going to give you sub-account, you know, upgrading and things like that. They're not going to give you those things. I guess those are really the only 2 things I can come up with, but usually people always ask Sony for stuff and they never deliver until at least like 1 or 2 years after. And with name changes and sub-accounts, this has been going on for how many plus years. But I just think you're going to see a lot of people ask for stuff and you're still not going to get it. Number 9, a PlayStation 3 price drop. I think the system would certainly get one around holiday season for 2014, just to, you know, go into the holiday season with a nice, attractive price for people that still don't have one. And, I don't know, man. I think, okay, so the 12 gigabyte model PS3, it's at 200 right now, so I think it'll dip, obviously, below that. Where I'm not going to say 150, I'm saying like 160, 170, which is kind of odd, but I just don't think they'd shave off 50 bucks. And then and the part 2 of this is kind of hard because Sony does a billion bundles with so many different gigabyte configurations, but the PS3s with larger capacities of, you know, of gigabyte, you know, 250, 320, maybe even a 500 model, would be kind of adjusted to where they should be, right? So like the 250, if they even have a 250 gigabyte model, this is really kind of a hard one to figure out, but it would see a shift in price, I guess. So I guess like a 320 gigabyte model, if they kept that as like the base number of gigabytes, they would drop that to around 220, maybe even a little closer to 200. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure that one out because there's like a billion different PS3 bundles. Number 10 is where I really started to run out of ideas because I don't want to like predict super obvious stuff like PS4 titles get announced from Sony developers, because of course we know that's happening. But number 10, which I still kind of I honestly don't think either of these will happen, but Sony acquires Ready at Dawn or Quantic Dream. That's it right there. Ready at Dawn, currently making the Order 1886. Sony's worked with Ready at Dawn tons of times before with PSP and everything. So there's a partnership there. They're second party. Sony funds their games. Quantic Dream, of course, again, second party. Quantic Dream, I believe, has always said they don't want to get bought, or they don't, you know, they... So I really don't think either of these will happen. This is just kind of me throwing it out there. Like, if it happens, then I snagged a point, I guess. But that's another prediction. So those are my 10 predictions for PlayStation for the year of 2014. Now, of course, people, this is YouTube. We got a comment section. Of course, tell me what you think will happen for Sony and PlayStation in 2014. I mean, it's not like your comments are going to go away, right? A year later, I can check those comments and see how you guys did as well, and we'll tally it up and see how we all did against each other. Fun game, right? Games are fun. That's what we do. We're playing games all the time. I got a game system right there, a bunch of them, actually. So... thank you all for watching this episode of Let's Talk PlayStation, where there wasn't a whole lot of news and just guessing. That concludes this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Rabbit. Thank you so much for talking with me, and I'll see you next Friday.